After Finland joined NATO, Helsinki and Washington have been negotiating a bilateral agreement. The deal will allow the U.S. to access Finnish military bases. Is Finland set to become a new flank in the Russia-Ukraine war? Our next report has all the details.
More than 430 days since Russia attacked Ukraine, and things are now swiftly changing in the battle zone. While Moscow wants to tighten its noose around Ukraine, Kyiv, armed with the latest Western weapons, is planning to push deeper. At stake are these regions, which Russian troops want to defend, while Ukraine has pledged to reclaim its territories. The Russians have made some incremental gains in Bakhmut, but that has come at a terrible cost. The White House says Moscow has suffered more than 100,000 casualties since December.
For Russia, this attempted effort, particularly in Bakhmut, has come at a terribly, terribly high cost. Russia has exhausted its military stockpiles and its armed forces. And since December alone, and remember now, some of the shelling and fighting over Bakhmut goes well back before December, but just since December, we estimate that Russia has suffered more than 100,000 casualties, including over 20,000 killed in action.
Moscow is asserting that its arsenal has also been refurbished and claims its troops have enough ammunition to launch a fresh offensive. The Wagner Group chief had claimed earlier that his troops were being supplied with only a third of the artillery shells they needed for their assault on the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. Russia has in recent days killed and injured dozens of people in Ukraine, its first large-scale missile strikes on Ukraine for weeks. Kyiv, however, claims its air defense systems intercepted a vast majority of the incoming missiles. With Ally-supplied military vehicles and new troops, Ukraine's president has once again asserted that they are ready for a new offensive.
Dear warriors, the main battles are coming soon. We must free our land and our people from Russian slavery. We must restore the full line of our state border, both on land and at sea.
Kyiv hopes its planned counter-offensive will change the dynamics of the war that has raged since Russia invaded Ukraine 14 months ago. But Russia too is ready to counter and also launch its own attack. Clearly, the battle is only going to intensify ahead.
Well, for more on this, we are being joined by Robert Bell from Florida, a distinguished professor of practice at the Georgia Institute of Technology. Professor, thank you so much for joining us on WION. When Finland joined NATO, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned Finland of quote-unquote countermeasures, and previously had downplayed the significance of Finland joining NATO. And then we have this possibility of Finland becoming a base for U.S. troops. How will this issue play in the larger picture of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, in your opinion?
I do not think that there's a direct risk of active hostilities along the Finnish-Russian border. Finland's defensive position is very strong, has been very strong. Finland has a long relationship with Russia that Russia respects, including Finland being one of the few countries in history that defeated the Soviet army in the Winter War before World War II. So I think Finland adds to the overall deterrent strength that NATO has, and the effect of that is to continue to sort of isolate the active fighting in Ukraine.
And, you know, it was interesting when I read that while the majority of the Finnish population were in favor of Finland joining NATO, they're not so enthusiastic of having foreign forces on their soil. Something around 38%, definitely less than 40%. What do you make of that?
Finland has a long history of standing on its own and being self-reliant. And I just want to be clear that when a country joins NATO, It doesn't necessarily mean that U.S. forces, particularly at any strength, let alone nuclear weapons, must be deployed on that country's soil. Take Norway, for example. Norway was an original member of NATO, but Norway's position was that there could be no deployment of foreign forces from other NATO countries on Norwegian soil permanently and no nuclear weapons. And that was respected. So I think what's being talked about mainly in Finland is U.S. forces rotating in and out, showing a presence, participating in exercises, using Finnish facilities. And in truth, this was going on even before Finland joined NATO.
Very interesting. Professor Robert Bell, thank you so much for joining us on WION, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
My pleasure.